Well, Insights channel, Steve here, and I'm going to call this A Comet is Coming. And I'm going to mention to you about some interesting things that are happening in the heavens that people are starting to mention. There's probably already quite a lot of material out there, videos and that. But it just so happens to give you a little rundown on this. I will investigate this more because I also only been recently made aware of this. But there's some strange things going on in the heavens, a lot of things happening all at the same time. I'm sure that most people know about there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun in the United States, a big eclipse of the sun where it's going to be pitch black for 7.5 minutes, unprecedented in our times for a very long time, not in our lifetime. First time. That's all through South America, through the US and Canada. It's going to be pitch black for 7.5 minutes in quite a large area. But that's on the 8th of April. Before that happens though, on the 25th of March, Monday 25th of March, we're going to have a total blood moon eclipse. And then a few days later, is coming on the scene what's called the Devil's Comet. That's just 3 of the things I'm mentioning. Big things, signs in the heavens. There's 3 of the things happening. And then I heard recently, scientists are telling us that there's a sun, a big sun that's some light years away. It's about to explode. And when it does, it's going to light up the sky like the North Star or one of these things. You're going to really see it. That's what they're saying. How they can know what's going on light years away, I don't know, but that's the scientist for you, so I'm not going to vouch that I know that's for certain. But I just noticed there are a lot of things that they're predicting is going to happen very soon, in the next few weeks. And I know I've read before in the far past, like 50 years ago, about the effects of comets. I read about how that all through history, if you are a scientist and also astronomer and possibly astrologer as well, if you know these topics, these subject matter, you'll find out that all through history that comets have had influence over the Earth in many ways. And they're not good influences, generally speaking. They're normally tales of dire things to come. You know, things like economic crashes, famines, war, chaos. That's generally what they signify. So that is what I'm working on now. I'm going to find out a lot more information about this topic because it's right upon us. There's only 5 days until it's going to start happening. But I think on a bigger scale, what do we know about what have you heard in the news? What have you heard is predicted? I know a lot of people are saying that the year 2024 is going to be a tidal wave of events. It's going to be economic troubles. Well, I think it's interesting right now we're seeing signs in the sky. It's coming along. Signs of the sky. Now I want to tell you, back in 73, way back in 73, 50 years ago, they also had a comet coming in 1973, Cahutek, that's what it was called. And I remember at the time they predicted that the worst effects of the Cahutek would happen in the middle of 1974. And they said that comets cause death to kings, the fall of leaders, economic troubles, famines, wars, plagues, this sort of thing, right? Nothing good. I think it's interesting, this comet that's coming is called the Devil's Comet. Or maybe just nicknamed that, I don't know, but what is coming on the scene? What are these signs in the sky? What do they mean? A blood moon, total blood moon, a total eclipse of the sun. And by the way, in the States 7 years ago, they had another total eclipse of the sun, and somebody plotted the path of it. And this one that's coming now where the path of this one passes over the path of the last one that came 7 years ago, a very significant location on the map. Something to do with a volcanic area, or could trigger something. But I do think that signs in the sky do mean something. You just have to live long enough to have seen the last one. So I find it very interesting that there are so many signs. If it was just one writer saying, is it just coincidence? You've got a total eclipse of the sun, a blood eclipse of the moon, and you've got comet coming in. By the way, this comet that comes in the end of March, it'd be around for a couple of months where you can actually see it before it disappears back in far away. These are just some of the things I know is happening. I'll investigate more because I think there are more things as well. I've sort of seen a glimmer of things in the background, but I haven't followed up on those things, but I will do. I'll find out more about this. Ah, yes, here's another important thing. The scientists are telling us that with the coming of the comet and with the total eclipse of the sun on April 8th, all the planets are lining up with the sun. Now, I've studied this before. If you have all the planets in a straight line with the sun, you can imagine we're the third planet. Just see a straight line of planets, right? And the sun. What that does is it multiplies many times over the gravitational forces, the magnetic forces, because it's in phase. They're all in phase with each other. The question is, how is it going to affect telecommunications? How is it going to affect things on the planet? Now that's a very good point. It's going to cause a change in the forces, at least for a while. What does it mean? I think we're going to have to find out more about these things, because that's at least 5 things I've mentioned that are happening practically all at the same time. I'm going to investigate also what type of comet is this, because the one that came in 73 was what they called a Leo Aquarian comet. And apparently each comet's a bit different, what they know the comets do. But I want to tell you now, it's not just people making this stuff up. There are scientists who are also very knowledgeable about the stars and keep logs of thousands of years of what has happened every time these major comets have come by, and they can just show you. The comet came then this happened later, and there was they wrote down 8 things on high a comet doth bring. When on high it brings war, famine, death to kings, plagues, you name it. Serious stuff. But how is this possible? How could things in the heavens or signs of the times, as brought down in the book of Joel, how could and also Jesus, Matthew 24 talked about these signs of the times. How could signs in the times affect what man is doing on the earth? Well, that's a good question. But it was interesting, because here's another topic I'll throw out to you today. I just discovered this one recently. I didn't even know this, and I'm a musician, shouldn't I? It's one of the things I do. Yeah, I play piano. I'm a pianist and a guitarist and singer and that sort of thing. But did you know that they changed the frequency of sound on musical instruments all the way back in 1939? Did you know it was the Nazis in 1939 got together with the globalists, their pals, of course they're both Satanists, got together in London, and they decided they didn't like the frequency that we have in sound. Like, I'm talking about the sound on instruments. They decided, no, we need to change that, because if you just know that you'll see this number shown up a lot more now on the net. All musical instruments used to be tuned to 432 hertz sound. Now, the problem with that is the Satanists and the globalists working for Satan, they decided we don't like that, because that is the frequency of natural creation sound that God made. And 432, you can hear it now on the net, because they keep showing music or alpha waves and stuff like that that's calming. But what they're not telling you is all they're doing is putting the frequency back to 432 hertz. Because in 1939, the Nazis, along with the globalists and others, they decided to change the frequency of sound, starting with all the orchestras and the musical instruments, instead of being tuned to 432 hertz, no, let's change it to a discordant sound. Change it to 440 hertz. And even to this day, all instruments or orchestras and that, they're tuned to 440 hertz, which is actually a discordant sound. In other words, that frequency tends to cause disharmony, not harmony. It's not a sound that brings peace, whilst the 432 hertz brings peace. All right? And there's another frequency which I think is 518 hertz, and what they tell you is it's like there's two sounds that really affect people, make them peaceful. The 432 is what they call the masculine. The 518 is the feminine. All right? So there are two sounds which, if you put the instruments on, they bring great harmony. But 440, the one that all the music instruments in the world are tuned to right now, in general, is a discordant frequency, 440. And who decided this crazy idea? It was the Nazis along with the globalists all the way back in 1939. I didn't even know that. So it's hardly surprising that people get all kind of trouble in modern times with disharmony instead of music that brings harmony and peace. But you can go on the net and you can look for music that affects your mood, makes you feel better, and is peaceful. And just look for 432 hertz. And you'll see it. That's very interesting. So all that to say, sound waves affect the mood of people. It affects their mood. And apparently it's the same thing with some of these astral things happening. Astral things that are happening. It affects people. They say that the new moon influences the stock market. Why? Because the new moon affects the moods and judgments of people. So here again, you have the things in the heavens affecting the moods of people. Here's just a phase of the moon. But then you have sound frequency affects harmony. So these physical things God has created, they're for good reasons. So the devil coming around and fritzing things up and changing the frequency of sound, no, not a good idea. And you have to realize Satan's whole goal is to destroy all of creation and destroy what God has created, destroy all human beings. And that's why you see a world that's always on the edge of chaos. That's why you see these morons that run the planet are trying to get people into big wars all the time. They live by perpetual war. It's not the people that make the wars. It's the powers. It's the globalists. And people like them. So anyway, it's very interesting that I think we live in amazing times. Don't be afraid of what you see around you. Just hold on to the Word of God. Hold on to Jesus. And pray like a house on fire for protection every day. Well, I'm going to investigate more into this topic of these signs that are coming. But watch out for March 25th, 2024, when there's supposed to be a blood moon eclipse. And then, especially if you live in the States or Canada or South America, see the total eclipse of the sun, which will be a 7.5 minute blackout, total darkness. That's what they say. It's what scientists say. Right, that's on April 8th, 2024. And then at the end of March, you should see the approach of the Devil's Comet. So that's it, basically. Just a few details on things going on in the heavens and how different frequencies affect people in different ways, and how some frequencies bring harmony and others bring disharmony. Well, thanks for listening. I would encourage people, do get my books, Out the Bottomless Pit, book 1 and 2, because they talk about things like this. I'm just bringing a few details up to date of what's going on right now in March. Well, it's March 20th now, 2024. Others have said that the year 2024, they predict is going to be a tumultuous year or confusing year. And of course, we all know the globalists are trying to bring on their one world government, and they have been for a long time. But they seem to be getting a lot closer to it. They seem to be a lot closer to enslaving mankind and bringing in electrodes and eventually, of course, what the Book of Revelation predicts as the mark of the beast. they're getting a lot closer to being able to pull that off. But the good news is, the worse it gets, the sooner the good times will come. Well, thanks for listening. So I encourage you to get those books on the paranormal, supernatural, out the bottom spit, books 1 and 2. And soon I'm going to come out with a new book, which will be called The Secrets of Enoch, Insights 2. It's based on the second book of Enoch, and I think you'll find it fascinating. It talks about pre-creation, how things were before God created the physical realm. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye for now.